I've had a few questions about why Rome invaded Britain, so I thought I'd give it a go. And by the way, I'm only talking about the AD 43 invasion under Claudius. I'm not talking about the military expedition under Julius Caesar. I can do a video on that if you want. But anyway, let's get on with the AD 43 invasion of Britain by Rome. To start with, we need to consider this guy, the Emperor Claudius. He'd come to the position of emperor in AD 41. And he wasn't the first pick, he wasn't the second pick. In fact, no one thought that he would end up being emperor, including Claudius. And that's largely because the three previous emperors have been very different characters, and there was a bit of a theme that ran through them. Let me explain. Starting with our first emperor, Augustus. He'd been a good politician, but he'd also been highly regarded as a general. He had a big military reputation. Next up, Tiberius. Okay, not the greatest politician, but he was also a very good general, and again had that military reputation. Okay, when it comes to Caligula, you kind of got me on the whole generalship thing, but he did have something of a military reputation because he'd been a kid and he'd hung around in military camps. That's why he got his nickname Caligula, which meant little boots. He wore Roman army boots as a sort of child, and his father had been a very, very popular and capable general. But also, think about Caligula. He only lasted 4 years, so we can kind of treat him as a bit of an outlier. But hopefully you've seen something of a theme. And that brings us to Claudius. He had no military experience of any type. And politically, he'd never really done much on the political scene. He'd been very much in the background. But Claudius was clever. He realised early on he needed to make sure that everyone understood that he could be that military commander that no one thought he was. What better way to showcase your military abilities than to launch a huge campaign? You just needed the right place, and the right place was Britain. You could supply it logistically, it was easy-ish to get to. Nah, it ticked the boxes. It was the required place that Claudius needed to go. In terms of resources, well, Rome would find resources, largely in the form of taxes. Therefore, we can think of the campaign as primarily something which Claudius needed to do in a political context. He needed to put his stamp early on in his campaign that he was someone who had to make up for that lack of military credibility. And I hope that answers your question. And if you want to leave comments or follow, please do.